So on Instagram, you said, I never thought this book would see the light of day. What is the story behind that? You're like...
Literally, yeah. Like, well...
Today we're driving to the London Library to talk to Yassmin Abdel-Magied, a screenwriter, author. She's done a lot, so we're going to go through it. Former mechanical engineer. Yes, she used to work as an engineer on an offshore oil rig in the middle of Australia, and a social advocate. And the oil rig experience is what she mines for her latest adult novel, At Sea. And it's about a young Muslim woman who is working in an offshore oil rig, and it's a thriller and it's very edge of your seat. Oh my god, drinking from a rival's cup. I love that.
This is actually a really great cup.
It looks good.
It's the only cup that we've ever had as like, because at the end of a filming job they give you like the free gift, which is normally a fleece or a tote bag. But we got given one of these on something, I don't know what it was, but this particular cup was really good. So then David made these for the cast and crew at the end of Rivals.
Oh, so
because
that
it was really
even
good.
The production company, he made that.
No, David did that.
Oh, nice.
But actually, it's a really
It's great.
Kinto. We get sponsored by Kinto.
Oh, wouldn't it? Okay, Kinto,
Kinto?
if you're out there.
Where Rice is right.
Anyone? If anyone's out there.
Well, we'll take any sort of sponsorship.
Yeah, exactly.
I think probably it would be on ADHD, but there's probably quite a lot on ADHD because people with ADHD like to talk.
She also was technically cancelled.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What did she do? Or not do?
Well, she definitely didn't like Harvey Weinstein anyone, and
Okay, well,
there's a
that's
lot of
good.
men who should have been cancelled over her. From what I gather, she was on a panel show and she was standing up for her faith. And then in the same year, sort of too close for the people who wanted to cancel her, she wrote a 7-word Facebook post that could have been seen as disrespectful to those who had died in World War One, but a friend immediately made her aware of how it could be seen as disrespectful, and so she took it down and said, oh, I'm super sorry, I mean to say this and this, and everyone just piled on her in such sorry Australia if you'll hate me, hey home country, but I feel like not in a very fair way at all. What do you think you'd be cancelled for?
Oh, I'm
Everything.
constantly surprised I'm not cancelled every single day. I probably have been.
How do we know now?
I don't know. It's funny because I feel like the things that you get cancelled for now are not like, you know, the president's like he's not cancelled. So it feels like that there are no real.
Yeah.
What's the
bar, guys? Do I want to do a little and then it was great, or do we have enough? Let's try it anyway. We're about to be a lot sweatier. Are you what?
Was there are you beeping a horn?
No, that was me doing the
the transition moment.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Hopefully I'll have more words for the interview. Okay.
You once wrote a Substack called Do you write to see the world or improve it? Can you answer that? Do you write to see the world or improve it? I think I know the answer, but I purposely didn't read the Substack because I was like, good question.
Yeah. Now I'm like, what did I say?
You've got to keep to it now because people can cross-reference.
Do you know what? I think that probably both, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. I think that for a long time, I would say that my work was only to improve the world. But interestingly, I think in fiction and in literary fiction, certainly in At Sea, what I was trying to do was maybe make the world seen or make a world seen. And that's not quite the same thing. And I think it's been interesting for me to explore literary fiction as a place where I'm not coming in with an agenda. I'm very purposefully not making a point. I love to make points. I make a point a day. You know, but I was like, oh, what is it for me to move into this space and not make a point and ask a bunch of questions for the reader to take away and to decide for themselves.
Yeah.
And that was a very different exercise it feels very unlike an engineer in many ways.
Yeah.
But I think I've really enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed seeing and hearing people's responses, because I think it brings, it's almost like I've kind of laid a bunch of things out, and by seeing how people respond to it differently, you're like, oh, new possibilities are kind of being created, and how fascinating, and how lucky that I get to kind of create something and then have people respond in different ways. So I think it's evolving for me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's very much not you saying, this is what I think of life on the oil rig. There's a lot of contradictions within that. I mean, there is that your lead character does go through a lot of dealings with alpha males and misogyny, but at the same time there's a camaraderie, and it's not sort of black and white. It's like, it's definitely not. And so leaving that to the reader is a new space for you. And does it feel like a safer space in a way? Because it's not as sort of visible.
It feels more dangerous, I would say.
Oh, interesting.
Because we live in a world where people want you to decide.
That's true.
They want you, and I think even in a lot of the interviews that I've had, over this press tour, people have they want me to take a position. They're like, what is your position on the oil industry? I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
A journalist asked me, like, do you think it's ethical? Effectively, the question was something along the lines of, like, do you think it's ethical to write about the oil rigs, during a climate crisis? And I was like,
babe.
Like, we can have that conversation, but that isn't the conversation I want to have.
No,
I want to have a much more interesting conversation. And so that's, it has felt slightly riskier, actually. And I think
interesting.
I think the literary fiction that hopefully I will continue to write will hopefully continue to be risky, but what's the point if not,
Yeah, because there's so much knowledge to be gained in the grey area, and that's sort of where the interesting conversation lies, where it's like, maybe we won't come to a conclusion about anything particularly, And
I also kind of really enjoy the fact that, like, this is really not the book that I think people want to read from me. I think that, like, I remember talking to an agent a while back when I first sort of had the idea for this novel, and first started writing a version of it. And she was like, oh, wouldn't it, like, wasn't there that kind of, like, I had previously talked about, like, a multi-generational kind of story about, like, Muslim women in whatever, and like dealing with Islamophobia in a European country, and she's like, wasn't that? And I was like, yeah, that's what you would love, because that is, like, brand. Eminently marketable, total branding, blah blah blah. It, like, fits all of it, and I was just like, that just feels like it feels so obvious and therefore boring.
How is it doing all the stuff other than writing, like doing the book tours, talking to the agents? The hustling on social media.
We love doing that.
We love it. But I feel like you're very good at it. Like, you can talk to camera well, and you can, like, the typical writer is a bit more hunched over and scared of the light.
Please leave me in the corner. Do you know what? I think it's really kind of wild that in order to be a successful, by successful, I mean commercially successful contemporary author, you somehow have to also be a producer and a filmmaker and a content creator and a, broadcaster, presenter. It is wild. Like, I do think it is, and it's changed even in the time that I've been writing. Like, I think the expectation on authors is you sort of do your own press, and you do quite a lot of it. And look, I enjoy talking about my work. I'm very happy to go on panels, to visit schools, like, put me in front of a camera, I will speak. But I think that it's been interesting to observe within myself even, because I have professionally been a presenter, that, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could just have, I wish I could just write, you know? But that is not the world we live in, unfortunately.
Well, back in the 80s, you could have probably just written,
exactly,
that's the thing.
Exactly.
Because we didn't have all this.
Yeah, because you didn't have to do all this.
And it makes you wonder how many really good writers are we're missing out on because they're not good at cutting a reel together.
Yeah, literally. It is ridiculous. Like, and I'm thankful that I can do it without too much cringing.
Yes.
And I can kind of be like, okay, today is going to be a day where we're just going to shoot a bunch of content. And, you know,
do you relegate it to one day? Are you like, Wednesday is my social media week where I'll get it all out?
So before like the tour kind of kicked off, I probably like, there was like a bank holiday weekend where I like set a day to shoot a bunch of content, edited everything over the next 2 days, and then I was like,
great,
yeah, I'm kind of done. Now, it's never enough though, right? And so like also you're on tour, you have to kind of create content posts, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so like, that's something that I'm kind of managing at the moment is like, I actually also don't want to spend my entire day on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
because what happens is I open it to go upload something and then I'm like, oh, that's a funny reel.
Yeah.
And then 2.5 hours later.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful.
It's so
it's scary.
bad.
It's really
terrible.
scary.
But I'm like, oh, I've had a
I
great
should
time.
have written for that. Yeah, I could have been writing during that half hour.
Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, and with writing, do you ever write not for publication? So do you do like journaling or morning pages or something like that?
I used to keep, like when I was younger, I used to keep a journal. I don't really anymore.
There's no time.
I think there is, literally. And also I'm like, is this a thought for, should I not share this? Should I develop this into a thesis?
Yeah. I'm sure. One of my questions is, has At Sea been optioned as a film yet? Because it would make such a good film.
But I think it should be.
I mean,
people are reading
it's still available, but it's not out yet.
No.
By the time this is out, it
Yes.
will be out, but that's probably why.
Yeah.
Oh. So on Instagram, you said, I never thought this book would see the light of day. What is the story behind that?
Oh, mate.
You're like,
literally, yeah. Like, well,
let me get into it. Yeah.
So I finished this book I did my first draft in 2023, got a development editor, did a big couple of redrafts, and so it was kind of like ready for, I started shopping it around in late 2023, and I could not find anybody that wanted to, I couldn't find an agent at the time for it. I had all sorts of fun responses, like, can you put a murder in the first 30 pages? I was like,
that's aggressive.
Different genre.
Yeah.
Someone asked if I could turn it into a memoir.
All right.
Somebody else was like, I don't think it's ethical for me to publish a book about the oil rigs because of the climate crisis. A few other people kind of, had general, they were like, oh, we like it, but we don't really understand why she wants to work on rigs. I'm like, that. Like,
yeah,
okay.
I did.
Yeah.
Just ask me.
Just also like, you clearly didn't really connect with the novel then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you want to be an editor, sir? Like,
So at this point, this was on spec as a draft, and you got the editor in to help you.
So I had paid for like an editor. I had done a redraft, and then I was like looking for an agent to then take it out to publishing houses. Couldn't get anywhere, and then after about a year, I was like, oh, it was like a solid, like bunch of queries, and also like I had, I'd been in the industry for a while, so I'd been recommended people and blah, blah, blah. So these weren't cold queries. These were like warm, whatevers.
Yeah.
Got nowhere. And then I ended up shelving it and being like, I'm not going to be able to publish this book. I'm going to write a new novel because this is ridiculous. And then I was on a writer's residency in Brussels. And there's an author named Sheena Patel who, whose book had been translated into Dutch. And I was like her interlocutor for an event. And after the event, I was chit-chatting with her Dutch publishers, and they were like, what are you working on? I was like, a new novel, because nobody wanted my last one. And they were like, what's the old one about? And I was like, oh, it's about this woman working on rigs. They were like, well, that sounds really interesting. Why don't you send it to us? And I was like, okay.
Nice.
And then they read it like within a few days, and they were like, we want to publish it in Dutch. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a big deal in the Netherlands. And they were like, we'll publish it in Dutch. They're like, can we take the English rights? I was like, take everything. I don't care. Whatever. Wow. And then a few months later, they sent the contract. And I was like, there's no money. there's no money. I was like, okay.
It's a lot of work.
Weird. I was like, maybe it's like some Dutch thing. I don't know. And then so I hit up a publisher friend of mine, and I was like, hey, can you have a look at this contract? Because like I'm a bit confused. Like, am I missing something? He reads contract. He's like, yeah, no, look, they're definitely trying to, jerk you around a bit. He was like, look, why don't you send me the manuscript and I'll see if I can recommend some other agents who might be interested, especially now that you've got kind of like some interest. And then I sent him the manuscript and he was like, wait, before you send it to any agents, I think I might know someone who might be interested. And so then he sends a manuscript to Ella Wakatama, who's at Canongate. She reads it like in a night.
Wow.
And then he's like, it's gonna happen. And so she made an offer like
Oh my gosh.
within days. And I was
you were
like,
like,
oh
sorry, the Dutch.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
And so
amazing.
eventually they
I love how that comes around.
Oh yeah, fully. And so like truly, if it hadn't been for, shout out Sheena Patel, if it hadn't been for, a conversation at an event, it would have probably like died a death.
Wow.
And so you never really know.
You never know.
You never really
Just
know.
keep writing.
Yeah,
keep
and
writing.
It is really all about like finding the one person who'll believe in you. Because now the book has been sold in multiple territories, across the
Amazing.
world, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But like, you need someone to take a risk on you.
You just need that
just
first
need-
person.
Yeah, you just need
Yeah.
that person.
I love that. What a great note to end on. I do have a final five.
Final.
Oh, final five. What's your dream writing space? This is supposed to be like a quick fire round, but I should probably send the questions first to people because they're like, oh, that's a big question.
Dream writing space would be like a cabin with a great ocean view.
Oh, nice. Not any people around.
No, I love
No body
remote,
doubling.
Remote. You know that I went to Fair Isle for a month. Do you know where Fair Isle is? It's the most remote inhabited island in the whole of Great Britain. It's in the middle of the North Sea. It's 2.5 hours off the coast of Shetland, off the Shetland mainland.
Oh, yes. I saw this on your Instagram
Oh, yeah,
when I had
yeah.
a little stalkage.
It's the best.
That looked very remote. Yeah.
It took me like 2 days to get there. Wow. I mean, the fact that I work on rigs is reflective of the fact that I like being
Yeah,
in the
that's
middle
true.
of nowhere.
Away from all civilization. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, so nobody around, beautiful kind of wild view.
Love that.
Yeah.
Favorite writing snack?
Ooh, probably like, there's like Rice Krispie things that are covered in like orange sort of probably.
It doesn't sound great so far. Rice Krispie covered in orange. And I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely ultra processed.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay, let's just say I also really love, I'll have a vanilla covered almond.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Quite classy that as
Thank
well.
you, thank you. Actually, you know who introduced me to the vanilla covered almond? A Trinidadian directional driller, offshore.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So unlikely. It's like, here, try this.
Literally.
Yeah. When you're stuck, what gets you unstuck?
Probably watching an episode of Emmerdale. I don't know. There's
And shout out
Shout out
because you
Emmerdale.
are on the core writing team of Emmerdale.
Yeah.
And
But there's something about watching like something really I like watching an episode of something. But the thing about an Emmerdale episode, it's like 22 minutes and it's tight and it's familiar and it takes me into a different world and it like lets my brain. And if all else fails, I'll have a shower.
great.
Yeah.
Water. Yeah, it's a good one. What book do you wish you'd written?
Ooh. Probably currently a book called Brotherless Night.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen
which
one.
is it. I can't remember how to say the author's name, but
Okay.
it's VV last name, so you can look it
Okay.
up. But it won the Women's Prize a few years ago. It is an epic, and it's the story of 4 brothers and a sister. And the sister's telling the story of the brothers, and it's actually about like the Sri Lankan civil war and ultimately
Oh,
the
wow.
genocide, but like through the relationships with the brothers. Like, they
Oh,
all
wow.
choose different parts, and she kind of like goes from when they were children all the way to like the end. And it opens with this like passage, which is like, I'm writing a letter to a terrorist, and the terrorist happens to be my brother, or something like
Oh.
that. Yeah, it's
Great first line.
banging. It's
You're always
banging.
looking for that first
Yeah,
line
yeah,
that is
yeah.
just
And I was
like it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
of
great.
course. And what scene are you most proud of having written? I wonder if we should make it about At Sea.
Yeah, there is a scene in At Sea. So there's a character named Dusty, who's the driller, and he's kind of this like quiet man who just wants to stay out of everyone's way. But there's a scene in which he, like, we see him on his own for a moment, and he's like reading a magazine, and it's like an insight into his character. That's, for me, it's quite beautiful. And it's a scene that I wrote actually in the first version of the novel. So the one that I threw everything out, I kept that little passage, and it pretty much remained untouched until publication. And it's just, I don't know, there's something about it that I'm like, I felt like I just was able to tell a story about a kind of man that would be supremely misunderstood in a way that I felt was beautiful. And I was,
And as soon as you said Dusty, I was like, I know which one you're going to say. So it clearly stayed with me as well with the magazines.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have bags under my eyes today because I was up watching Rivals.
Just one bag.
Just the one bag. It's weird. Just one bag on one side.
Rivals season 2.
Rivals season 2. Very good.
Great.
Oh, so good. It's so fun. It's just so joyous to watch. It's like you're in this. Anyway,
It's immersive, isn't it?
yeah. Can Rivals season 2 sponsor us?
They're being
It is
sponsored by PG
immersive,
Tips.
and the music. PG Tips.
PG Tips.
PG Tips.
PG Tips.
PG Tips.
PG Tips. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, Pedro Taps. I love Pedro Taps.
Um,
So fun.